Marcy, are you ready? Come here, come say hi. Say hi, everyone.
Hi everyone, good afternoon, happy Monday. Welcome to the Zero Waste Challenge. This is your 5-day challenge. We're kicking off today with day number 1. And before we dive into day number 1 and our challenge for the day, I just want to give you quickly an overview of the 5 tenets for the Zero Waste movement. Of course, you can Google and read up on these at your leisure, and we'll go over them throughout the week a little bit as well. Especially on Friday, there will be some more resources and information given to you then. So the first tenet of the Zero Waste movement is refuse. And this tenet is asking you to just give some consideration. What are some things in your life that you can refuse, that you can just simply say no to? Can you simply say no to taking the swag bag at your next event? Or maybe when you go to the dentist, do you really need that packet of extras that they give you, or can we find other ways to take on some of these things that we want in our lives? So can we refuse, for example, maybe purchasing single-use plastics, especially water bottles? Can you refuse to do some of those things? There are a lot of options for the first tenet of refuse, so I just encourage you to dive in and go deeper on what that might look like for you. The second tenet for the Zero Waste movement is reduce. So if you can't refuse it and you must consume it still or purchase it or still have it in your life, can you reduce the amount that you're using it? Can you reduce the amount of purchases you're making with it? Or, for example, let's go back to that swag bag. Maybe you don't need all the pens, maybe you need some pens. Can you just be mindful about what pens you're taking? Can you reduce the number of leggings? One of the things that I talk about is consumerism. Can you reduce the number of things you need to buy? Can you reduce your overall consumption? What we're consuming is excessive, and if we're mindful of that, if we begin to reduce that, we can lean into a zero waste lifestyle that way. So just ask yourself, do I really need this item, this extra thing, or is there another option, a better option, or do I already have something that would work instead of this? For example, in your kitchen, maybe check, do you really need 3 spatulas that do the same exact thing? Maybe you can reduce that, or at least not purchase another of the same thing. The third tenet for the Zero Waste movement is reuse. So far we have refuse, just say no to what you actually don't need. Reduce, what can you reduce? If you can't say no, what can you reduce? And then the third tenet is reuse. So what in your life can you reuse or make a multi-use versus buying another one or buying another single-use one? So the reuse is really focused on, we have a vehicle in the background, we'll pause for a second and be patient. So the third tenet, reuse, is really focused on what are the things that we can skip purchasing on a all the time basis, and we can maybe buy 1 time or 2 times. We can really limit the number that we're buying them. So a great example for reuse is bringing your reusable bags rather than taking plastic bags all the time, or even paper bags. Can you bring your reusable bags, maybe a reusable coffee mug or a reusable water bottle? So we talked about refusing to purchase water bottles, or at least reducing your purchase of water bottles. Of course, if you're in a situation and you don't have water with you, if you can't wait or you don't have access to it and purchasing a water bottle is your only option, then at least we reduce the number that we're purchasing. But when we reuse, when we have a reusable bottle, that's an even better option. So reuse, what can you reuse in your life? Finding ways to reuse products or fix broken products. Can you turn those jeans that maybe have a rip in them, can you turn those into shorts or another option? One of the things that we like to do at our house is old t-shirts will sometimes turn into small bags that we can then hand out or use as well. So reuse is the third tenet. And the fourth tenet and the fifth tenet, I tend to think they're a little, not interchangeable, but I like the fifth tenet to be in the fourth spot. So the fifth tenet for the zero waste movement is rot, and that means composting. And I would prefer to compost over recycling, which is the other tenant. So we have rot and recycling. So composting and then recycling. What can you compost? I find that that's a better option than leaning into recycling because recycling is a broken system, and we're not going to get into that right now, but it's not a perfect system. So even if we're recycling everything, if we follow that trail, it's not the best trail right now. It's a better option, but it's not a great option. So if we can put those other 4 tenets, refuse, reduce, reuse, and rot. So rot is compost, and there are a ton of things that we can compost, a lot of composting options, which of course you can dig into that as well. So with the basics of zero waste broken down here just a little bit, I want to give you our day 1 challenge. So the day 1 challenge is all about this thing that I talk about called awareness. And we need awareness in every area of our life if we're going to plan to make any change. We have to bring in the awareness in order to create the change that we want. So the very first thing we need to do is have awareness. Now when it comes to the zero waste challenge, one of the best ways that we can have awareness before we can make any change, to dig through our trash. We need to dig through the trash to find out where our trash is coming from. So your day 1 zero waste challenge is to dig through your trash. It's to pull your trash out. Maybe you lay down a tarp, or you go out in the yard, or you find an area where you can peel that trash out and really just lay it out. Maybe put it in groups, pile it together, similar things go together, and just get an idea of where your trash is coming from. And then, can you refuse any of the things that you're purchasing? Can you reduce? Can you reuse? Can any of that go into compost? Or the last tenet, can we recycle any of it rather than throwing it away? For my family, one of the areas that we noticed right away was that we were using a lot of tissues, like facial tissues, Kleenex, a lot of tissues. That's an easy fix, friends. What we did once we learned that is we just created our own cloth tissues. So digging through the trash, going through the trash gives us this awareness. It gave us a chance to see what we're actually consuming, what are we actually purchasing, what are we then actually throwing away. And with that awareness, then we can be able to start creating the change that we want to create. So there's your day 1 challenge. Go through your trash. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear how it goes. I know it sounds like a big, maybe a gross task, but this is how it starts. It's all about awareness. And awareness is the key for any learning, transformation, and growth. We have to have that awareness first. So I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.